Hey everyone, how you doing today? I hope you liked episode number 1 where we talked about stacking cash. This conversation is one I actually get a bunch online, and that is, how do you talk about money or investing with kids? So I thought I'd ask Greg what he does. Greg, we're going to think the kids are like 10 to 15 years old. What is something you would recommend talking to that age range about? What would you maybe avoid? What would you definitely want to talk about? When you get asked that question about, hey, how do I talk to my kids about money? What do you say?
So a couple different things. Number one, the first thing I talk about is creating money.
Mm,
So number one, you want to be a creator of money. You want to be a creator of jobs. You don't want to be a job taker. You don't want to be a money seeker. You want to be a job creator. You want to create money. If there's something you want, figure out how can I generate the money to go get it? How can I create? So that's number one. Number two, money is a means to an end. Okay, money. You need money. You gotta have food, clothing, shelter. So it takes money for the world to operate. People have to pay for goods and services in order to keep the world going around. So money represents an exchange of value from one person to another, and it's the perception of that value and what somebody's willing to pay is what it's worth. So, in terms of how money in the economy works and that kind of thing, that's how I explain that. But the biggest thing I explain is that money is a vehicle to solve problems, not just for yourself, but for others. And the more you have of it, the more impact you can make. The more money you have, the more opportunities, the more responsibilities, and the bigger impact you can make because you can give back. And then that's the other thing I talk about is, strategic giving. Whenever you have money, think about what you can do with it, the impact you can make with it, and how you can help people. Not what can I buy with it, what can I do for myself with it, how can I make the world a better place, how can I help somebody in need, and what percentage can I give away, and think first from that perspective. I want to be able to give away 100 million a year. I don't or a year or whatever in my lifetime. I don't want to make 100 million. I want to be able to give 100 million.
mm.
So when you start thinking like that, it opens up a different world of ideas and opportunity to you. So those are some of the things that I talk to kids about in terms of how to think about money, how to think about wealth, and what it can do. And then I also talk about the bad aspects of it. That if you consume yourself with money, consume yourself with wealth, consume yourself with accumulating everything for yourself, there's no real fulfillment or satisfaction in that, because no matter what you have or what you want, there's always more that you can have and there's always more that you can want. But if you think about the impact and the greater good and the other things, it's very different. It's more rewarding and it's more fulfilling
Mhm.
um, than just constantly going after what it is you want and what you think you need.
Wow. That is 100. I love all of that. It's nothing I would talk about. So I love the fact that again, it's back to the Rich Dad book. You read Rich Dad and you want to be Rich Dad. I read Rich Dad and I want to be Robert. It's amazing how our brains just look at
The other thing too is I always carry cash.
okay.
Okay, so I've always carried cash for two reasons. Number one, you know, it's a wealth mindset to be able to have cash, to have that. Number two, it's whenever I go by somewhere, it could be a Girl Scout, cookie booth, it could be a Boy Scout cookie booth, it could be a fundraiser where they're selling something, things like that. And this is one of the things I always did with my kids. I taught them how to give at a very early age. And so if there was, one of those things, a little fundraiser, car wash, whatever it is, I always kept cash so that I could give the cash. Okay. So I had it to give. So I never
Yeah.
had an excuse not to give. And I would let my kids do it. And we'd see something and I'd say, "Do you want to donate?" And they'd be like, "Yeah." I'm like, "How much do you want to donate?" And they would say, whatever they would say based on their understanding of money at the time. But, I would carry $100 bills. Okay. So I would give my kids each $100 bill and I'd say, "Go over there and give that. And don't take any cookies. Don't take anything else. Just donate and thank them for what they're doing and for contributing their time on a Saturday afternoon when they
Wow.
could be doing anything else, but they're out here raising money for their cause." And then thank them, hand them the money, and just leave. So that's how I taught my kids how to give, and do that kind of thing. So it was really cool because everywhere we go, they would be looking for things. "Hey, can I go give the money there?"
That is awesome. That is awesome. That is awesome. When I think about money and kids, these are things I've said they're completely different. And again, I think I need to up my game based on what you've just shared. It's the whole job creation, not taking is where I need to get to. I'm not there today. What I've told people kind of in this order was, first off, I want them to understand taxes. And I think the best example of taxes is taking them to an ice cream store, getting a 2 scoops and then taking the top top scoop away, right? You got to make taxes feel painful. That's something I think kids understand, right? Two scoops become one. Another one I think is opportunity cost. I think is really important. And we could talk about savings or buying a toy or whatever it is. Once you deploy it or spend it, it's gone, right? I try to get them to understand that. I try to get them to understand, hourly wages or effort. You can sell time for stuff. And then the last one, which is really where you started, is investing, right? Becoming an entrepreneur or making something, right? Whether it's, taking your toys and doing this or buying a bike and fixing it up or selling it, you're making a little small business. So those are the things that I try to get to when talking to kids or talking to parents who have kids. Um, what do you think?
Yeah, those are great analogies, especially the taxation, and that kind of, as we go along, I've had those conversations with kids about how much you make versus how much you have to pay in taxes and things like that. And I mean, I don't get into the details of how you can maximize that,
Yeah.
minimize that, but I've always talked to them about that you have to pay taxes. That's how your roads, bridges, this, that, and the other, national defense, that's how those things get paid for and operate. I was in the military, that's where my salary came from, was taxpayers, and I was a taxpayer in the military, so it's not like you don't pay taxes. Um, but yeah, that's a great way to do it. Taking them to the ice cream shop. The way I was taught, so my dad taught me the cost of doing business, and I've told that story. I would use his lawnmower to go out and cut grass when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. He
Yeah.
would charge me a percentage of everything I brought in to cover the use of his equipment and the fuel and the maintenance and all that. Plus, I had to bring it back cleaned up, filled up, in better condition than it was when I got it. Vehicles, if I used his vehicle, I had to bring it back with a full tank of gas, no matter what it was on when he gave it to me.
Yeah.
Funny how it was always empty when he gave me the truck on the weekends. He would run it down during the week, give it to me on E, and I'd have to fill it up for the weekend and bring it back with a full tank of gas. Uh, so those little things, but the savings is a big one. Learning how to save a percentage of your income, invested, and then giving. And then what I'll tell a lot of people is sit down with your family and talk about giving strategically. Hey, as a family unit, what causes do we want to support, do we want to give to, and how are we going to give,
Mm.
and how are we going to save, and how are we going to invest? So a lot of it is including your kids in those conversations. And my kids were different, so I've been an entrepreneur since I've had kids. I mean, from day one, when they were little, in the car seats in the back of the car, driving around with me to job sites, hearing me on the phone, talking to clients and customers and vendors. So they grew up, hearing the business, and what I did for a living and how I did it. So they learned, kids take in a lot. So they learned how to negotiate, how to talk to people, how to treat people, how to talk to employees. I mean, every conversation I had was always in front of my kids. They were always with me everywhere. And, I was coaching them, and, they were very fortunate. The other thing is they also saw what I listened to when I wasn't on the phone and when I was driving around.
Mm.
I always had my, personal professional development books: Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Norman Vincent Peale, Dale Carnegie, all of the things that I read, Robert Kiyosaki. Um, all of those things were always, the books, the tapes, all that were always playing, always visible. They saw me reading, they saw me listening, so they learned through that. And I would explain to them, they're like, well, why are you listening to that? I'm like, because it's all about mindset. What you put in
Mm.
is what you get out, those types of things. So it's a lot more than just talking about money. It's showing the example.
Mm.
So it's not what you do, or it's not what you say, it's what you do. So they need to see
Absolutely.
you living it out, see you walking it out, and then participating in it. So that's just the way I always did it.
I'm curious about this one on this topic with kids and money. Did you give allowances? Did you pay for grades? You know, was that something that your kids were getting at some age?
Yeah, they would get allowances, and they did have to do some chores in exchange for that. Um, grades, I guess. I mean, I still have one that's finishing high school, and I don't really give her anything for grades. It's just kind of,
Yeah.
that's kind of expected. It's more for doing other things, and it's more for having them earn and pay for things too.
Yeah.
You know, wanting to go to work, wanting to be able to make money so they can buy their own vehicles and stuff like that. So, instead of handing them whatever they want, they've earned it and worked for it, and done that type of stuff. And then even my even my youngest daughter, she's gotten in two little fender benders, and she's had to pay for it. I made her pay for
No.
it. Like if they get tickets, if they get wrecked their car, I make them pay for it, so they understand.
Yeah.
Because they're working and they're seeing, they get a gross paycheck. Even though I'm an entrepreneur, I've encouraged my kids to go to work as soon as they could, and they all wanted to. So they see the paycheck, they see the taxes that come out,
Yeah.
they understand how much and how long it takes to make money. So if you get in an accident and you spend, $3,000 fixing your car, you understand, man, it took me a summer to
Yeah.
save up $6,000 of working. So my kids have gone through those types of things, and
That's
and
awesome.
uh, and had to pay for them.
Very, very cool. I just was curious about how you talk about money. I love this conversation. I personally think families in general need to talk about money more. I think it's rare a family like, I mean, your family is an exception where money was a comfortable topic. I don't think money is a comfortable topic in most families.
No, I didn't grow up that way. So with me, it was just, it was talked about and it was there. And I even had the Rich Dad, Rich Kid books, and I had Cash Flow Game and all that.
Mm.
That I played Cash Flow for Kids, and I played with them Monopoly, taught them the lessons through that. But it was never a topic in my house. My dad was military. My mom worked for Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and once a month when he did the bills, man, you didn't go near him. He was just ticked off, in a bad mood. It was just, he was not a pleasant guy to be around when it came to money. But the interesting thing was that when I was little, if he ever gave me money, he always kept a record,
Huh.
of anything. So I was always in debt to him. I always owed him money. He would keep a little record of every nickel he ever gave me, along the way when I was young. It was really interesting. And and then
That's
like,
funny.
oh yeah, and then at Christmas he'd say, "Okay, I'm going to forgive all your debts," or whatever.
Ah.
Something like that, because I'd be paying him off through the chores and stuff that I'd be doing, and he would pay me to do chores and stuff like that, like chopping wood. He'd give me 25 cents a log,
Ah.
for splitting wood up, and that kind of thing. So yeah, so
That's
I
awesome.
learned at a young age. Yeah, it's really funny, but
There you go.
um, yeah,
Very cool, man. Well, I appreciate this conversation. We got one more about entrepreneurship that it should be a lot of fun. Thanks, buddy.
yeah.